everyone, it is Dani and welcome to this update video. I trust and hope you're doing great this morning. And so we're going to be looking at what is going on across the North Atlantic. We'll be talking about the latest info on Dani'i as well as Tropical Depression 21, which has now moved inland. But across sections of the Western Caribbean, there is some activity. And we'll also be talking about the Eastern Pacific, where there's a brewing hurricane that will be making landfall in Mexico. So let's get straight into it. And we're kickstarting things, zooming into the vicinity of the Caribbean. So here we can see that there's all of this thunderstorm activity in the northwestern part of the basin, even a couple of thunderstorms developing across portions of Jamaica. And even right now as I speak, it's raining in my area. So wonderful morning showers. You can let me know what's going on for your area. Going over into most of Central America, going to the Yucatan, Belize, parts of Guatemala, Honduras, Nicaragua. There isn't a whole lot. There's that blob moving out. And the depression is actually right within this area here. But take a look at all of that activity to the south of where that center is moving inland. So there's definitely quite a bit of activity within this area, likely bringing some periods of very heavy rainfall to portions of Costa Rica, potentially down in Panama as well, and even Colombia. There we can see a lot going on. For the ABC Islands, much isn't happening. And similar story as we head through a majority of the Lesser Antilles. But as we head to the northerly portion of the Leeward Islands, headed to the vicinity of Anguilla, St. Martin, St. Bartholomew, there is still a bit of activity in the area associated with Dani'i. But as I mentioned yesterday, conditions will gradually improve. But with all the moisture feeding in, there could still be some additional showers and thunderstorms here and there. As we head to Puerto Rico, the Virgin Islands, most of Hispaniola, Cuba, portions of the Bahamas, there isn't a whole lot happening. But going to the southern Bahamas and even for the Turks and Caicos Islands, a bit of activity is nearby. Then, as I said earlier, for Jamaica, some thunderstorms, some showers for some of us in the morning here. And for the Cayman Islands, a lot of that convection remains offshore to the west, but there could be some rainfall activity through today. Matter of fact, let's go ahead and take a look at that rainfall forecast from the Euro model. And so we can see here that it gets very colorful over in some areas over into parts of Central America. So a lot of heavy rainfall is likely across many areas, portions of the Yucatan headed toward Guatemala. Let's not forget the Bay Islands of Honduras and even for Ambergris offshore of Belize. So going to Honduras, El Salvador, Nicaragua, especially Nicaragua with Tropical Depression 21 moving in, and also down through Costa Rica and Panama. There's likely to be a lot of heavy rainfall through today. Similar story as we head into Colombia, and for some areas there's already a lot of heavy rainfall, and even across spots in Venezuela and northern Guyana there could be some rainfall activity. Now as we head to the ABC Islands, there is a chance of seeing some rainfall through today. Hopefully that comes to fruition. For Trinidad and Tobago, much is not expected. Then through to most of the Lesser Antilles, headed toward the Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico, there could be some downpours. Headed over into Hispaniola, especially northern Hispaniola. For the southern Bahamas, Turks and Caicos Islands, eastern Cuba, there may be some substantial rainfall within these spots. And we know that when it's very heavy, that can trigger flooding. So please be cautious, guys. As I said, for Jamaica, some of us experiencing some showers. And then over into the Cayman Islands, not a whole lot is happening right now, but there could be a bit of activity through today. And so we're going to be looking at our active tropical cyclones. Now let's first start out with Tropical Depression 21. So this is the cone forecast for the system, and it is still sustaining winds up to around 30 miles per hour. It is moving into Nicaragua. Now this is likely to dissipate later today, but whatever is left of it will likely move over into the Eastern Pacific and re-intensify. And models are showing that as we go on to the intensity guidance here, we can see that most models, of course, they remain in that white shaded area right now because the system is below tropical storm strength. But then as we head into the next 2 to 3 days or so, we can see that these are going up, which indicates strengthening into that green shaded area, which represents tropical storm force winds. So we could see it re-intensify over in the Eastern Pacific once it's back over warm water and other conditions are conducive. And so let's now move on to Dani'i. So here is the latest cone forecast this morning. We can see that Dani'i is sustaining winds at 75 miles per hour and moving to the northeast at 9 9 miles per hour. So it should continue making its way up to the northeast through today and even into tomorrow as well. But then that curve is expected, and eventually the system is likely to become post-tropical as it loses its tropical cyclone characteristics. And then as it goes off to the west, it could be very close to Bermuda by this weekend, headed to early next week. As such, it could induce some impacts there. But then what happens afterwards is uncertain at this point in time. However, we're seeing a bit more consistency with what models are expecting. So they were a lot more over the place than this. And so we're seeing here that they're kind of showing this S motion of the storm going up to the northeast, making that turn to the west, and then curving back out to the northeast. Meanwhile, some of these tracks just want to take the system out to the west. So we'll definitely have to wait and see. There's still a lot of uncertainty down the road with the potential track. So this is something that we'll have to keep our eyes on. But as of right now, the main system itself is not a problem. But again, there is still a bit of activity extended into the northerly section of the Leeward Islands. Now, I want to take you to the ensemble tracks for both GFS and Euro for the next couple of days, because we could see something else try to form in the Caribbean. And so we're looking at the Euro ensembles. This goes out to Saturday evening. And here you can see that there are all those tracks for Tammy. So some of them taking the system to the west and moving on a southwestward track headed toward the vicinity of the Bahamas, Florida, and some of these taking it out. Now, in the Central Caribbean, there we're seeing members picking up on a low pressure area forming. Then as we head further out to go into Sunday night, here we can see that members are showing that whatever forms could be making its way up north into the vicinity of Jamaica, potentially the Cayman Islands and Cuba as well. We see those tracks for Tammy coming down. And then as we head on to the GFS members going to Saturday evening, we see a lot more members agreeing that there could be an area of low pressure forming. And then as we head out to Monday of next week, the 30th of the month, there we can see them kind of going all over the place here. So it is likely that we will see something else try to develop in the Caribbean, because I mean the waters are very warm there. So with other environmental conditions being conducive, mostly that sheer the upper level winds, once that is favorable, then we'll definitely see development. And that is not something weird to see either, because that's a typical urgent spot during the hurricane season, the South Caribbean, with these systems making their way up to the north. So we'll definitely have to watch out for that and potential future impacts to various islands of the Greater Antilles and even the Cayman Islands as well. Finally, we're going into the Eastern Pacific, where there's newly formed tropical storm Otis, which is on its way to becoming a hurricane. So Otis is currently sustaining winds of 65 miles per hour and it's moving to the north-northwest at 8 miles per hour. So we can see that there's that hurricane warning in red for majority of the coastline of the state of Guerrero. And then there's a hurricane watch and a tropical storm warning for the westerly side of Oaxaca. So those areas are likely to experience hurricane or tropical storm conditions as Otis is going to be approaching, and then eventually once it makes landfall, it will rapidly weaken because it will be cut off from its source of energy, which is of course those very warm waters. So it will weaken quickly as it heads further in towards the state of Michoacan. So those areas likely to experience impacts from Otis, very dangerous impacts, that storm surge, the heavy rainfall, which may trigger flooding and mudslides in those areas of higher terrain. So please take the necessary precautions if you're to be affected by Otis, and do not take any unnecessary risks. And so that is pretty much what I wanted to share with you guys in this update, and I trust and hope you found it to be quite informative. However, if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments. I'll respond to you once I get the chance to do so, and remember to always be weatherwise.